Bigger than capes.
Give me some outside.
Yeah, I was looking forward to it, and then I watched it.
Right.
Hello, welcome to Bigger Than Capes. I'm Zach, and this week I'm joined by Will. How you doing?
Howdy, buddy. I'm doing very well, thanks. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. Yeah. Good.
Good.
Yeah, the whole triple good, you know. Whatever that means. This week it's our Manchester Comic Book Club tie-in episode, and we're going to be discussing Four Kids Walk Into a Bank.
Hells yeah.
Looking forward to. Should we do a little bit of a catch-up and a news segment and all those things we allegedly
Let's do it. Do you want to go first?
Sure, yeah. So
Throw you right under the bus early on.
It's the best place to be sometimes, isn't it? Just heard that back in my own mind and realised that's not.
Doesn't make any sense.
So my first bit of news was that we've had the first trailer for Jupiter's Legacy, which is coming out through Netflix, I think pretty soon. It's
quite soon.
Yeah, it's the first Miller World thing that's actually happened. So that's only taken 3 years, 2 years? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think on the surface, I've not read the comic. I'm a bit 50-50 on Miller. He definitely has the capacity to write comics that I do like. He's also got the capacity to write comics that make me feel a little bit sicky.
Yeah, oh god, yeah.
But from this trailer, I think this looks pretty good early doors. I think I like the look of it.
Yeah, I think this is one of the better Mark Miller books in recent years. Much like you've said, I think he's an inconsistent kind of guy, isn't he? So I think Jupiter's Legacy is one of the better books he's done.
Yeah.
We are the alternative superhero guys, so this is kind of
it's our wheelhouse.
Yeah. But I'm looking forward to it. I think I like the vibes I get from the trailer. It doesn't seem to be the most Mark Miller of books, if that.
Sure.
So I think that might be a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, my example I always go to is Starlight, which I think is a really good Flash Gordon-esque pulp sort of space adventure.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't seem to have any of the trappings of the gratuity that I think he sometimes brings to his work.
That is very true. I'm actually a little bit surprised that something like that, like Starlight, hasn't been the go-to adaptation, because it seems like quite a safe opening gambit. But then the way they were talking when they first signed the Netflix deal, it was like there was going to be 50 Miller World adaptations all coming straight away. And they haven't, so...
No, I think, are they making a Kingsman something? A TV series or a new film, I think, through Netflix, but it's some way off.
Was it Sharky the Bounty Hunter, which apparently they'd said that they were going to adapt even before the comic book series started. So yeah. I guess there's things that are allegedly in the works that maybe we'll see in the next year or two, maybe. I don't.
Indeed. But as of yet, I'm not tired of the kind of parody or, as we say, alt superhero TV series. I think we could reach that maximum velocity pretty quick. But as of right now, I think The Boys and Umbrella Academy are different enough that they both kind of work together. And I'm hoping this fills a kind of third slot. But I do worry that some of the that some really crappy stuff basically is made in the wave of the success, and really, the bandwagoners sort of jump on and make as much, it's like superhero content as they can.
That's true. Yeah, I think there is some risk of that, and it's a shame because I know we've got stuff like Black Hammer that's meant to be in the works and other such ideas that are super cool. So I do wonder how everything's gonna stack.
Yeah, but there are some like Deadly Class that managed a season and was cancelled because
also true. Yeah.
I mean, it was really hard to watch in the UK as well. Like they didn't make it easy.
I think it's finally like easily available now, isn't it? Which seems a little bit too late. When you've told us we're not getting any more of it, it's kind of not that urgent to watch, is it?
No, indeed. But speaking of adaptations, that leads nicely into my first bit of news. So Kiltopia is a series that's been mainly through Kickstarter been funded, and has just had the 3rd issue funded, and hopefully I'll be getting it soon. And when I say issue, these are almost like mini volumes. They are, I think, 60 to 70 page books that are considered issues. So there have only been 3 issues, but that's probably a full volume's worth of probably about nine regular issues. Anyway, my point being is, alongside their Kickstarter for issue number 3, they announced that they're going to make a kind of TV series made completely with the Unreal Engine, so like a video game engine.
Okay.
It's going to be written by, and I assume in some way made by, Phil Gellert or Gelat. Apologies for brutalizing that, but the guy who was responsible for Love, Death and Robots. Okay,
that's interesting.
On Netflix.
Yeah.
And they're going to be like 8 20-minute episodes, I think, just covering the first issue. But yeah, looking forward to that. I think that could be something real different again. I really like the world of Kiltopia. It's a like Blade Runner, but with more like garish neon. It's got some cool characters in there, some really like Mad Maxian style spiky shoulder pads and that sort of look. And I think it would work really well as an animation. So looking forward to that.
That does sound really cool. I haven't read any of the issues yet, but I will. It definitely looks my kind of thing. Also, did you just invent the word Mad Maxian?
I mean, it may have been coined today. We should send this to ourselves in the post for future liabilities.
I feel like we're gonna have to like send a lot of stuff to ourselves in the post at this point, right? You know, we come out with some good stuff. Yeah,
write our own little dictionary of terms we coin,
or at least think we've coined.
Yeah, it's almost invariably in use somewhere else on the internet. But did they post it to themselves?
That's the real question, isn't it? I do wonder, in this kind of modern era, do you have to post things to yourselves physically, or can you like email yourself, or like, you know, post on your own Facebook wall and we're like...
I guess like it's all about being time stamped, isn't it?
Yeah. So
wow, this isn't going to make it. So.
Almost definitely doesn't need to be in the podcast. But will I remember to cut it? That's the real question.
That's the question.
So whilst we're on Kickstarters, man, our segues are good today. We should
segue game is on it.
Yeah, we're gonna have to celebrate this. So currently we've got about 2 weeks to go, maybe even 3 weeks to go on the Inferno Girl Red Kickstarter, which we did kind of briefly touch upon when we talked about Radiant Black a couple of months ago. Although I think we talked about it at a time before any like official announcements had been really made.
I think it was just the advert at the back of Radiant Black, wasn't it? Was all we knew about it.
And originally it was going to be Dragon Girl Red. Now it's Inferno Girl Red. It's going to be written by Matt Groom and drawn by Erica D'Urso. Erica D'Urso. Erica
Sounds good.
D'Urso. I'm just going to keep saying it until it seems really natural and normal. And it is going to be edited by Kyle Higgins, who wrote Radiant Black and Power Rangers. It's got a similar kind of Power Rangers transforming hero type vibe to it. Super into it. I think it's a 100-page hardcover we're going to get. And then if they reach their stretch goal, which is $55,000, they're going to add an extra 20 pages and we'll have a 120-page graphic novel. So
lovely stuff.
It looks awesome. The art's really nice. Matt Groom is a good writer. He wrote Self-Made Image a couple of years ago, which is good. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm really into this. And I think I am too, man. I think like the way that superheroes are updated for every generation, I kind of like it that we're in an age at the moment where that 90s era of sort of Japanese style Power Ranger-esque Beetleborg VR Troopers.
VR Troopers, that was exactly the one. God, I watched those three so much. But I like that is kind of being readdressed. I think people our age are now making the things that we watched on telly, and sometimes I just think the market is made for me at the moment. It really...
Definitely. I think that was the thing with Radiant Black, that it felt like it was that exact thing aimed at 30-year-olds. So, yeah. And this, I like that it's that similar feel, and the designs are incredibly cool. And it's interesting. I think there's a tendency for this kind of thing to focus in on like a predominantly male group of heroes or a singular male character. So it's nice that it's female led, and yeah, I think it's feels like a progressive take on Power Rangers, which
I think they managed to do that in Power Rangers well, didn't they? Like I've not read a lot of Power Rangers and would like to catch up on some of that. But I know that like Kimberly gets quite a lot of her own story and kind of agency, and I think Kyle Higgins is perhaps aware of the male-tastic potential for these stories, and seems to be actively trying to avoid the pitfalls. I think
that's definitely true, and it's something we've got. I'm kind of curious in Radiant Black as well, as we're going to get more superpowered people introduced. Are we going to get more of a balance than we've seen in traditional Power Rangers, which would be cool. I also think there's an inevitable kind of Inferno Girl Red Radiant Black crossover in our future, and
most certainly, yeah,
that's going to be awesome too. I imagine it's at least going to look awesome. I don't know how.
We'll have to see how the two stories collide, but yeah, I'm kind of into this.
Yeah, I think it's, as you said, we are definitely the people this is aimed at. So sweet, good.
Next on my list is that the new Magic the Gathering comic series through Boom Studios has had 85,000 copies ordered for their first issue. Shows the power of licensing. But I've got to say, like, I play a bit of Magic, and in a similar way to sort of Warhammer, I've always liked the aesthetic, but I don't know a lot about the lore. Differently to Warhammer is I actually enjoy the game of Magic.
Yes, fair.
And not so much the game of Warhammer, which has always been a bit of a barrier for me. But in comic book form, I feel I can learn about some of these little fiery and electrical and scary people on my cards.
Yeah, I know very little. I know little things like I know the same locations come up time and again, and you kind of, if you follow the art of the cards like all the way back through all of time, you see like the same locations reappear, particularly in like the mana cards. Is that the thing? Lands?
Yeah, land.
Lands. There we go. I know you see like repeated locations like getting older and falling apart and things like that. I also had a friend use one of the Amonkhet Magic D&D crossover things in a D&D game I was running, which meant I had to read a load of Amonkhet lore, which so there was a period of about a month where I knew like loads about Amonkhet, and then like as soon as it was like
the next wave,
can I forget about this and just get on with my life? Thank God. But it's definitely, there are definitely the hints that I've seen that there must be an interesting background to everything. It's just a background that's always felt dense and hard to approach. So yeah, maybe comics are the way for us to get into it. Let's be honest.
I think that could be an avenue in. But yeah, like you're saying, with the connectivity of the cards and the almost background stories, it's a really great card called Forbidden Friendship. And when you play it, you get a human and a dinosaur. And without saying anything, sort of insinuates what might be going on. And then in other cards, there's one called Capture Sphere, which sort of means your opponent can't use one of their creatures. But the image on that is the dinosaur in like a magical sphere and the human on the outside, like banging on it, trying to get in. And this story of the Forbidden Friendship just sort of lives in the background of different cards. And I think that's really great.
That is pretty cool. And yeah, I would like to see how that translates to comic booking. Do we know who's writing the comic?
Jed McKay.
Maybe I don't know who that is, and this has all been for no reason.
Jed McKay. I bet you've read some Jed McKay, because apparently he's written some Absolute Carnage, Miles Morales, and Absolute Carnage Weapon Plus. That
definitely sounds like stuff that's unfortunately crept into my life.
It has just been bits of Marvel, it looks like. Some Black Cat, some Spider-Man, that sort of stuff. Anywho, magic.
Yes. Yeah, I am kind of interested. I wasn't sure I was going to be, but I wanted to give it a go.
In the same sort of way that I am quite kind of interested in Marvel's like Warhammer 40k comics. Because again, like aesthetically, I just think it looks rad.
Yeah.
But I don't really enjoy the game, so I've bounced off time and time again. But in comic form, you might have me there.
I can see that. Maybe this is something that will come up for a future roundup.
Yeah.
Is the issue out in April? Is it May? I can't remember.
The first issue of Magic's already out, I think.
Oh, well, maybe. That's. Imagine if we did some planning. How organised we could be. I'm all tapped out for news. Have you got anything else?
The last little bit I've got is just anything interesting from Free Comic Book Day that, with a bit of luck, we might actually be able to do in person. I think they've pushed it back now, haven't they, to
August?
June? August? August sounds more right than what I said.
And I think the only announcements I've seen so far is I know Valiant are doing like a Valiant sampler type thing with a bunch of different story previews. I think Harbinger was the one that got the most like focus in what they announced.
So it's called Valiant Uprising, and Exo Manowar's on the kind of main guy on the cover, and then you've got Harbinger, Shadow Man, and Ninjak, it looks like, are the interior stories.
Okay. Let's be honest, we're going to be into that.
Some of the others, like Stray Dogs, Free Comic Book Day, it's about dogs, so 5 out of 5. Best story ever written. Resistance Uprising, I kind of feel like this whole Resistance AWA connected universe only exists on Free Comic Book Day.
Yeah, I know of it, but nothing about it, which I think maybe that's something I need to look further into.
I think that's, yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's worth a read. There's Avatar and Legend of Korra, Free Comic Book Day. Huge fan of the cartoons. I've never really read any of the comics.
No, neither have I.
Interested to pick up a free sampler and see how that's going.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be an issue of We Live called We Live Last Days.
Okay.
A book we've talked about before, and I think we both really liked.
Yeah, we did, definitely.
So yeah, there's a few pretty interesting looking things for Free Comic Book Day this year.
That sounds good. I hope we can do it in person, and we'll try and do a Bigger Than Capes Free Comic Book Day roundup thing.
I'm sure we can.
However that will work. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think we could do that. We'll do a power podcast. It'll be 4 hours long, and we'll cover
everything.
But then I'll speed it up in Logic, so it'll actually only take 1 hour. So
just like chipmunks
screaming at each other. Yeah, that's what our listeners want, right? They can slow it down if they want. I'll tell them how.
Why would you want to?
Yeah, if you can have a full podcast in a quarter of the time, isn't that what you really want?
That's what the new world's all about. Speed. It's all about pace.
That's right. Taking all the fun out of something you enjoy. That's so that's been a good little news section. We've actually had things to talk about.
Had things of interest, at least to us.
Yeah, I'm proud of us.
Sorry, the internet.
Apologies to everybody else involved. So this week we are here to talk about 4 Kids Walk Into a Bank, which was our April Manchester Comic Book Club book. I'm going to thread in now so I don't forget that next month's meeting will be for Tetris, the games people play by Box Brown. It's going to be on the 4th of May. And as I assume we're still going to be on Skype, we're still open to basically anybody jumping in to talk to us. We're not picky.
No, absolutely. Come along.
I do hope that I'm hoping that this year is the year that we get back together in person, though. That would be really nice.
That would be really good.
I would just miss hanging out,
Yeah. The Skype has been all right. It's done us proud for what we needed, but yeah, it'd be nice to actually see people for reals
one of these days. And incidentally, yeah, I'm tying everything together real well. When we are allowed to meet in person, we'll be back at Travelling Man, who just so happen to be our sponsors.
Hurrah.
Oh yeah. So Travelling Man are based in Manchester, Leeds, York, and Newcastle. They get you covered for all your comic books, Magic the Gathering, graphic novels, manga, board games, role-playing games, Angela's favourite, the Funko Pops, and whatever else you need. They're officially back open again as UK lockdown has been eased and normality, quote unquote, resumes.
I'm very much looking forward to going back in.
Yeah,
smelling those pages.
Deeply unhappy about that sentence, but
just leave the silence.
Will. Also, still available.
To be more poetic.
If you figure out how to do that, please let me just send me a different soundbite to fix this.
Sure.
They'll also be available still online at travellingman.com. So, yeah, hit them up, get some stuff.
Get some stuff, or what else are you doing with your money?
That's a good point. And one of the things you could pick up is 4 Kids Walk Into a Bank, which is from Black Mass Studios. It's Matthew Rosenberg, it's Tyler Boss, and it's Thomas Maur. And in a nutshell, 4 Kids Walk Into a Bank is the story of Paige and her friends Stretch, Walter, and Berger as they discover that Paige's dad and his friends are going to rob a bank. And the best way to save them from themselves and stop them from robbing the bank is for the kids to rob the bank first.
Genius.
It is, isn't it? It's just a good plan. And that's basically it. That is the long and short of it, I think.
It's a great elevator pitch. You've got the key strokes in there.
Thank you. That's what I'm here for.
I think most importantly is that this book is brilliant.
Yeah, I really like this book. I read it a couple of years ago and thought it was good, and then revisiting it in the last couple of weeks, it's been like, yeah, it's really good. This is altogether ridiculous, but in like the best kind of way.
Absolutely. And I think from, as you've described it, it's kids trying to rob a bank to prevent adults robbing a bank. It's a silly kind of premise, and I think this book, on like multiple occasions and multiple levels, clashes the silly with the like hyper serious and the consequences of the antics of these kids who, like I say, have this kind of crackpot plan that is definitely not going to work. And when it gets underway, there are some serious, I don't want to say consequences again, I feel like I've said it too many times, but that's what they are. They're serious consequences.
That's true, serious consequences. And I just think this is one of the like best standalone graphic novels. I think that the structuring of it is really well put together. I don't feel like there's any wasted space. Every joke is funny. Every action sequence works. It's kind of all builds up to the final couple of issues where we get this. The final issue, we get this kind of heist movie in like 22 pages or something like that, 24 pages maybe. And it flows exactly the way it needs to. And I think that's true throughout. I think we see the comedy and the action perfectly paired up, and then just good stuff.
It's real good stuff. I mean, you comment there on the like structure. I really like each issue starts with the kids kind of playing, but also sets up the plot of the rest of that issue.
Yeah, so we start with like Dungeons and Dragons, and then
you've got like
games and
like remote control cars.
Yeah.
But I think the characters are so well voiced and realized that even when they're shown on screen as or on page, more to the point, as like a anthropomorphic pig with an eye patch and a burning sword, you still know who it is because just what they say identifies them as who they are straight away.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, really great. And it allows the comic to branch out into the like unreality, which is often, I think, where comics are at their best. Like talking about, as we were earlier, about like Power Rangers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
One of the big drawbacks is that it costs a huge amount of money to make it look better than it did in the 90s, which is, let's be frank, kind of crappy. But when you're drawing it, like your imagination is the limit, and these little issue intros allow for the imagination to be like at its wildest.
Yeah, definitely. And there's such good attention to detail that is kind of so dumb but so perfect in those scenes. And I think ultimately there's a level of relatability, especially in like the D&D sequence, that's so just like, yeah, I think we've all played this equivalent of Dungeons and Dragons where someone just doesn't want to do it, but they're playing anyway, and everyone's got ludicrous expectations, but the rules prevent them.
It's a good tenement of most people's childhoods, I think, where you have a group of friends and one of them's a knobhead, but you keep them around anyway.
You're stuck with them, yeah.
Yeah.
That is very true. And okay, Burger is kind of the worst frequently, but he does have some, if not all, of the best jokes.
And much like I did in Comic Club, I want to defend Burger. I think he is pretty much a jerk consistently throughout. I think when things go wrong, it's broadly because of Burger.
Yeah, maybe.
But I can't help but empathise with the fact that I just get the feeling he really wants to be liked, and that's not always happening for him. I think that's why he lashes out.
I am.
Maybe I see a lot of myself in poor Burger.
No, I feel you. I like Burger more than I think most would. I do need to ask the question: have you got a favorite Burger scene?
I mean, I think his end point in the story, not to give too much away, I think is a pretty. It's hard to say it's a great bit, but in the lead up to that, he's got some pretty excellent lines. But there is a scene of him running away. Is he distracting some police?
Yeah, he's distracting the police to kind of lure them into an alleyway so that they can be boxed in.
Runs down an alleyway and trampolines over a fence like a glorious swan.
Yeah.
While the sort of onomatopoeia, I think, rather than having a sort of a whoosh, just says "fuck you" in big letters.
Yeah.
As he flies over a fence, and I just thought that was hilarious.
Which it is real good. And while we're on the kind of onomatopoeia sound effects, I think that Thomas Maur, who does the lettering, I think his choices throughout this. So we've got a scene with Walter throwing up orange soda while saying I'm in, and
yeah,
there's just some really good uses of sound effects. Another favorite for me is Burger smashes a transformer with a rock, and the sound effect for the rock falling is just dick move.
Yeah, I don't think any of them actually represent a sound. I think all of the onomatopoeia is sort of a joke.
You know what? Yeah, because even getting hit in the face with a dodgeball is accompanied by just the word jocks. So
it never gets old either. Every time it's funny.
I think it's because it's something you don't see in comics. So when you just commit to that joke, it's funny. To go the other direction for Burger, I think my favorite Burger scene is so there's a point where they're in the arcade and they order a pizza, and his dialogue with the waiter is they're in some really fancy restaurant. So his dialogue is "We'll have a pepperoni to start. Is the Sprite fresh?" And I don't know what it is, but there's something about "is the Sprite fresh" that just fucking killed me when I was reading
real
it.
Clicks with you.
It's just good stuff, you know?
But I think, as you say, I think all the characters are well developed. And while I think we both latch on to Burger, I think, is it Paige, Stretch,
and Walter.
I also think are really great and pretty well fleshed out characters in a short period of time.
Yeah, and it feels like from the first couple of pages you entirely know who these people are.
And
kind of amazing.
Care about them, care about their adventure and whether they succeed or not, and the dangers they face and then the decisions they make. I think it's a really good job of creating these characters. Just feel like they've hit the page fleshed out. Yeah,
which I'm not sure how early this was in Matthew Rosenberg's comic book writing career, which isn't something I'd thought about because I've read quite a few of his books, but yeah, this does feel really well considered and really well planned. I think every character feels quite detailed. I think even when we see the antagonists, so Vernon, Hayes, Silk, and Skinhead Mike, even though they're all kind of like almost stereotypical like criminal characters, which I think is also done as a reflection for like how the kids see them. So they're like really simplified down. So
yeah,
Skinhead Mike is just a Nazi just a neo-Nazi who eats licorice. The end.
Just like a potato with a swastika on his face.
Yeah, like no other details. Vernon feels like he's got this kind of almost old film style thief.
Leather jacket wearing ruffian.
Hayes is just an idiot. Nothing else to Hayes really, is there? He's just a good old fashioned idiot.
Yeah, just real dumb.
And then we've got Silk, who we're told has like killed 4 people. No, has been accused of killing 4 people, actually killed 3 of them, but then just gets the living shit beat out of him for the entire book. He's
the butt of every joke.
Yeah, and he gets set on fire. He gets an orc shot in his eye. He gets punched a lot. He just takes a real beating from start to finish. And maybe that's not a stereotype for a criminal, but it is funny.
I think it is for that, like, comedy criminal a la Home Alone.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
They're supposedly successful criminals, but they are thick as a pair of planks.
Definitely. And I kind of love it for that. I love that it's got this kind of serious undertones, but with this like wacky 80s comedy vibe.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I really like it's super self-aware that it's a comic, and in a lot of cases we'll have little caption boxes clearly from Page's point of view, reminding the reader who people are and what their relationship is, but they're always really like snappy and funny. And sometimes I think a lot of narration can be a bit laborious when more often than not the story's better told through the art than having the art and having it described to you at the same time. Yeah. But in this, I think they're just as snappy as the dialogue, and they're fun to read. But one bit I really, really like is, I think it's about page 71. So we're talking issue 3. And we get the first actual sighting of the bank, and the caption read, "Look, it's the fucking bank, finally." I think it's called 4 Kids Walk Into a Bank, and the bank appears only in the 3rd issue, and the creators know that and make a joke of it. It's really fun to read.
That is very true. I think there is, definitely a self-awareness. Like, I've spent 2.5 issues setting up that they're going to rob a bank, so at some point I'm going to have to show you the bank. Which is the kind of self-aware writing that I'm into. It just feels funny, and it is funny. It's just well done. I think, like I say, I don't think there are any jokes in this that don't hit. I think this is just well put together comedy. And
I think so much of the comedy is through the art. I mean, I think the art in this book is fantastic all the way through. It's hugely varied. I mean, there are pages with like tons of panels. And there are pages that are just huge spreads. There are pages of the book that are almost silent, and the art just tells the story. I think the art on the whole is kind of broadly simplistic.
Yeah, it's quite stripped down.
It's not going for high detail, but within that, again, kind of clashes the childish and the silly with the severity of what they're doing, I think, really well. And I think the art complements the story tons in that way.
That's very true. I just really like this book, Will.
It's well good, isn't it? I mean, looking through it again, like the coloring's quite simple. And and sometimes you'll have whole pages that are almost coloured in the same way. But I think it's also really, really effective when it wants to show whether it's kind of blood or, well, in Walter's case, lots of vomit, or sometimes just a very kind of dramatic moment. I'm thinking of the page. There's a big double page spread where they rob a candy store in preparation for robbing the bank.
Mm.
And it's almost entirely in black and white, shot as if it's through a security camera. But the trail that they make through the store is kind of a red dotted line that shows where they've been. And within that, there's comedy. There's like stuff knocked over. And I just think that the swapping colour into that is superb and really sets almost like a camera view. I can imagine this in my mind.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just hard to find fault. There's aspects to this book that, like, the first few pages, so we've got like a Black Mask presents a Boss and Rosenberg comic book with Thomas Maur, 4 kids walk into a bank, and then a full list of credits. But every single one of them is done like an old school slide projector, like at the start of a film, and shows something that's happened before this. So we see like Paige's 10th birthday, a science fair where Berger's volcano is actually on fire, Stretch and Paige playing hockey, and then Paige on Christmas Day with the dog under the Christmas tree. And it's like the fact that even before the book has started, we've got these like opening credits pages that show like the friends and the family and what's brought us to this point. I feel like is a tremendous amount of effort that people don't put into enough comics, if that makes sense. I think
it feels like there's a certain labor of love involved in this, a real desire to have this both made and be sort of as good as it possibly can be. And I think the creative team have pretty much nailed that. I mean, again, I'm just flicking through the pages and thinking it's so well paced. There's barely a page in the book I don't look at and think either that was funny, that was tense, that was exciting. Like, it's just, there's something interesting all the time, and it sets up mini mysteries. There's a period of time when they've got a lockbox that they've stolen from her dad and his friends.
Yeah.
And you don't know what's in that lockbox, and that kind of takes a while to be revealed. So beyond the kind of A story, I think it's really good at wrapping in B stories. There's a point where they sort of fall out, and using the CB radio as a really great page where when Paige the character is talking, not Paige the page, and getting no response, it's just panels of static.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we get introduced to one of the finest characters.
All Captain
now,
Glory Hole.
Is he a captain? What was he before?
I'm not sure what he starts at. He definitely is Captain Glory Hole.
Or is he a Dr. Glory Hole as well at some point?
I'm going to have to check now, which feels dumb, but thanks. Is it the first issue? The first, like, CB radio?
Yeah, and then he comes back in about the 4th issue or so.
Yeah, he's Dr. Glory Hole, and then he's Captain Glory Hole later.
Good.
He somehow ends up being like a real MVP of the whole
he does
plot,
end up being much more involved than one would expect.
Which, awesome in a way, I guess.
Yeah.
I feel like there's quite a frequent thing where, particularly in like 80s kids comedy action stuff, that, you know, they always end up knowing one resourceful, either intentionally or completely accidentally resourceful grown-up who's helping out but not really sure why.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a quality stereotype we often get, and here just happens to be Captain Glory Hole, Dr. Glory Hole.
Right, it does.
Mr. Glory Hole.
Yeah, to you, sir.
who the kind of man who can get you some angel dust or can get you a gun.
Only a flare gun, apparently.
Which, still a type of gun.
Well, yes. I think I don't know whether people would find it maybe hard to come to this book because, and I think this is a real positive, it's hard to categorize.
Yeah, this is like a comedy heist action. I don't know what this book is. Yeah, okay, well played.
Like at its core, I think you'd probably put it under like crime comics. But if somebody has come from the world of like Brubaker and Phillips, this ain't that.
That's right. And not to be that guy, but you're going to have a way better time with this.
I think this will definitely appeal to a broader audience if it can find them. Like if it can encourage people to read the book, I think a lot of people would get a lot out of this. I think it's a real fun ride. Definitely.
And I like the idea that maybe that's going to happen. I know we've got, I think it was last September, it was announced that this is going to be adapted into a film. So I'm kind of into the idea that this might get a little bit more attention once that adaptation happens. I don't know if it's going to be a big series project, or if it's going to be an indie film, if it's going to be a direct to Netflix kind of guy, but I think any version of this that brings attention to this comic. And all right, I have a tendency to say this, so sorry. I feel bad that Matthew Rosenberg has written this, and he's written like We Can Never Go Home, which was also for Black Mask, but like the bulk of his work has been for Marvel.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I feel bad about it. I'm sure he's
maybe not bad. I'm sure he's doing all right for it. I think that's the thing. I think I would just rather see that he got more credit for this and We Can Never Go Home than credit for like an X-Men run that's already been forgotten about, or a Punisher run that people have already gone past. I think
unfortunately, like there are very few people that ever get recognition for their creator-owned work as much as they do their big two work. I mean, I even think of somebody like Grant Morrison.
Yeah.
Who I still think in most people's minds is most famous for Superman and Batman and X-Men.
Yeah, no, that's very true. I think there's a bunch of creators who, we've mentioned him already, like Ed Brubaker, despite the fact that, Criminal and Fatale and The Fade Out and all these massively celebrated books, but still for most people he
wrote the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, the guy who wrote Winter Soldier.
And I mean, you get some like Brian K. Vaughan, I think, is broadly recognised for his indie work more than his big two.
Yeah, I think he walks that line better than a lot of people.
I actually think it's because his solo work is considerably better than his Marvel work in many cases. I'm a big fan of Runaways, but I think that the step in quality for me is quite noticeable.
I agree. I think whilst I think Runaway is good, I think Paper Girls is better.
Yeah.
And I also think that the recent like Rainbow Rowell Runaways has ultimately showed us what the perfect version of Runaways could be.
Yeah, exactly. And I just kind of get the impression that sometimes creators like that don't put their full arse into it. I've definitely heard that criticism of people who we love, like Jeff Lemire, who kills it on an indie book and then kind of does you some X-Men, but does he care that he's doing the X-Men, or is it just happening? Another great example, actually. I think Lemire is one of those that's slowly getting much more recognition for his work outside of the big two than within. But
it's an interesting one. I find it strange when you look at like the bibliography of Matthew Rosenberg, and it's like predominantly Marvel books, and then a couple of indie books and a couple of Archie books. Yeah, you know what? No, I'm going to put Archie as not that indie at this point, as one of the most successful American publishers of all time. I think there's an argument there that it's not that indie.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to get into those arguments, isn't it? Like where IDW and like Turtles and Transformers, is that indie or is that corporate?
This is so off topic for the podcast, but it's a place that we find ourselves, because whilst we pride ourselves on being all about the indie stuff, some of the indie stuff we cover is arguably like massive multi-million-dollar companies who.
Yeah, but you know, I loves me some Turtles.
Yeah, Turtles all the way. Yeah.
So that's that. But yeah, no, I think it's, rather than feeling bad, I think it's a shame for us as an audience, because I know for at least you and I would rather see Rosenberg doing more of this, because I think this is excellent. And as you say, I'm just not that interested in the concept of a standalone Punisher run that happened some years ago. I'm just not that fussed in reading that story. So based on how brilliant I think this is, I would love for Rosenberg to do more.
Yeah, definitely.
Not even this style, but just where he's kind of let off the leash a bit and doesn't have to walk within the very complicated multi-structure of a superhero soap opera.
That is completely fair. And I think the care and attention to detail that has gone into 4 Kids Walk Into a Bank means that I love this a lot more than like his X-Men run, which I also really like, but this is better.
I guess it comes down to, and this is probably more about how I assess things, but I would reread this.
Yeah.
Once I've read old X-Men once, it's very unlikely I'm going back to that.
Yeah, it's got to be real good for you to want to keep revisiting a superhero book, I think.
Yeah. But I will reread this and I'll take great delight in doing so.
Yeah, I think we could put this on book club every year and people would be okay with it.
Yeah.
Every April, like clockwork, 4 Kids Walk Into a Bank. We'll just
come and talk about it again.
I
hope we make a sequel and it's called 5 Kids Walk Into a Bank, and then Fast and Furious 4 Kids Walk Into a Bank, and then
but just take a kind of Ocean's 11 or Fast and Furious approach where they keep doing it, but with slight differences.
Different kids, different bank.
I really thought you were going for different kids, same bank. Just like, why does this keep happening? So that just reminded me of one of my favorite things in this is there is a scene where they blow up Captain Glory Hall's truck.
Yeah. And
he dives out of it screaming, is it just not again?
Yeah, not again.
And there's so much. It's like, I need to know more. I feel like there's this whole like Captain Glory Hall flashback issue where we can see the last time this happened.
I think it walks that tightrope really well of providing a little bit of backstory that you don't necessarily need to know, but gives flavour and depth to the characters.
Yeah.
We know that Paige's mum has committed suicide at some point prior to the opening of the book, but we never really get any detail of that, and I don't think you need it. It's just understanding who Paige is and what her relationship is with her dad, why they are where they are. And again, with Captain Dr. Glory Hall, it's just funny to have a little taste of some of his insane adventures he's probably been on. You don't really have to see them. Like, I just think it's funny to get that little moment.
Yeah, and I think there's the stuff we get, like we see the bully Turge and his mum, who's the
Turgel. What a name.
And his mum, who's the manager of the bank, we see them have like in their home. We see like the dynamic between them, and it's like doesn't really add anything to the overall story, but just tells us a little bit that, you know, like even at home, Turgel's a dick.
And yeah, so's his mum.
Yeah, just sows enough seeds of like, this is all you need to know about this family.
I think it's that knowledge of character building that in probably 4 panels, you get what you need to know for this character to fit into the story. Like I know what your motivations are, at least broadly, and I think that's I think that is really like admirable storytelling.
Definitely. And I think there are characters in this, like I can't remember his name, the foreign exchange student.
Yeah.
Is he like Gerdis?
I think, yeah, that sounds right.
So maybe I can't remember his name. Maybe it's Gerdis. Who is like completely doesn't seem to serve any purpose, and then for like a couple of pages it's like no he was put here for this reason, whilst he has no greater points. He is here to like carry off a couple of scenes that he's essential for.
But he's introduced and then disappears for ages. I was thinking, like, what's he up to while they're like days worth of planning that he's just not involved.
Just what's happening off screen for Gerdis.
Yeah.
Just an absolutely regular kid.
Yes, just seems like a really normal kid, but you learn nothing about him because Paige and her friends don't care. Like he's, if anything, just an annoyance to their plans, and the fact that he plays such an integral role at the end, I think it's pretty much just because he's there.
Yeah, pretty much.
Just a tool they can use, and when they finally flee the bank, they just leave him there. Just leave him stood at the front of the bank. Like, and that's it.
Yeah, it is, and it works. It's it's bizarre that it does, and yeah, he like we've said, he isn't exactly the most like valuable of characters, but he fills a role that he is necessary in a really odd way.
Mm-hmm. But it's like, it felt like his introduction was just for that, was just a joke of having a foreign exchange student while also trying to plan to rob a bank. Yeah. And then, like I say, because he does disappear for ages, you kind of think, oh, well, that was quite funny and that joke's done with now. But it's all just very clever setup to throw him back in the mix right at the end.
I feel like everything is very well thought out and very intentional, which is a nice way to feel when reading a comic. Like someone has put just all the thought into every part of it. And it feels the same with the art, the colouring, the lettering, the design aspects. The fact that there is somebody credited. Let's give them a name. Let's go there. Let's find out who they are. Come on. The fact that Courtney Menard is credited as designing the wallpaper.
And as I opened the first page and read that, I thought, what on earth does that mean? And then at the opening of every chapter, there's this insanely cool, like, full page wallpaper
that ties into that particular issue. And it's like, oh, okay, that's, well, let's be honest, that's mental. I would like to,
yeah, wallpaper I would like to have on my wall, but I get it, and I get why it deserves credit. Like, they're cool.
It's the only book I've ever come across with that credit in the opening pages, and is that all they do? Is that the entire job of Courtney Menard? Do they just design wallpaper for comics and everything else is?
I think so, but I mean, it's that attention to detail that I think permeates the rest of the book. I mean, I'm struggling to find different ways of saying that it's really good.
Yeah, I think we might have maxed out the ways we can say that now, and
Maxed out on goodness.
not a bad thing. I think good story. It's a lot of fun, but there is also moments where the kind of feeling of threat is very real. The consequences are legitimate. I can go through talking about things that are funny all day, but ultimately I don't think that's of anyone's benefit but ours. I think the overall message here is people should go and buy 4 Kids Walk Into a Bank.
Yeah, from Travelling Man Online or in store soon.
Hey.
Captain Advert or Doctor Advert. I'm not decided yet.
You'll figure it out. And you can get whatever version of this you want. You can get a paperback, there's a hardcover, there's different variant covers. I know my cover's different than other people's. It's just good, and go pick it up.
Yeah, it's a highly recommended book for almost anybody who has any interest in comics.
And probably some people who don't.
Yeah, and people who don't, who just like good humor, excellent storytelling, great characters.
Yes, all of those things.
All of those things. Oh, it's good. It's good stuff.
Good stuff. So, I think at this point, it's probably the time that we wrap up and say, like,
I think so.
So, we've been Will and Zach. This has been Bigger Than Capes. And remember that comics are bigger than capes.
Bigger than capes. Wow, that might have been the best one yet.